Welcome, nerdy knights of the well-rounded table, to Bohemian Geek Studies, where we take extremely dorky dives into our favorite fandoms. I'm Queen of Queries and Defender of House Elves and Magical Creatures, Sarah O'Connor. Welcome, welcome.
Watch a BGS. I'm Colleen McMillan, Gryffindor Prefect.
I am Quidditch commentator, Anders Drew.
And manager of Mischief, Flo Siegel.
And we might not have all, and we might have all graduated from Hogwarts not long ago, but our heads could still do with some filling, so let's head to class. And since we are into October now, we're going to be examining and theorizing about what happens during Halloween at Hogwarts. So let's get into Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Anders, what happened on Halloween that year and in the book in general?
Again, we actually don't know for sure. So lack of normalcy, again, is very much a part of the themes of this book. So what we do know for sure is that our trio, Harry, Ron, and Hermione, are on the run. They are in hiding. Not 100% sure if they're still at Grimmauld Place or if they have moved to
the tent,
kind of setting up the tents all over the place. So back at Hogwarts, things that we do know for sure, again, we don't know what actually happened on Halloween, but we do know that Snape is the headmaster. The Carrows are in place as the Muggle Studies and Dark Arts teachers. Neville, Luna, and Ginny are kind of still recruiting Dumbledore's army, trying to have some resistance. So that's what we know about Halloween actually taking place in that book. But what's interesting in this book is later on at Christmas time, when Harry and Hermione go to Godric's Hollow to seek out Bathilda Bagshot, we get the flashback where we actually see the series opener, Voldemort hunting down and killing the Potters from Voldemort's perspective. And we get some interesting details about how that went down. And it is very much a Halloween scene. He mentions little kids in costumes trick-or-treating. So again, while we don't know for sure, we do have a lot of interesting context in this book. So, we were starting to talk about it right before we started recording this. What do you guys think about where the trio is? Have they infiltrated the Ministry yet? Or are they still at Grimmauld Place planning that out? Or are they in the tent at this point? What do you guys think?
Why don't we start with the presumption, like the happier presumption that they're able to celebrate Halloween at Grimmauld Place and write like the teensiest little Bohemian Geek Studies fan fiction that like Creature and them like put on little hats and they were able to enjoy themselves with some candy and a warm cooked meal before everything went absolutely sideways, and they could think to themselves that even though Snape is the headmaster, there would still be a feast at Hogwarts.
Well, that was nice. I don't think that happened.
Snape has to seem like he's a hard ass, so I'm guessing they got like
I would think that they still had a feast.
I think they still had a feast.
It might not have been
I think they did too.
Any sort of fun or decorations.
Yeah.
Anything.
Black candles.
It could be easily.
Yeah. I mean, Hagrid was still there at this point, I think, so maybe he had his pumpkins in there, but
I don't know. The Carrows maybe were torturing a student in front of the entire feast to
so
drive
they
home
might
a
have
point.
been a feast, but no one could enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I feel like they had to like keep up some appearances of like because there's still a lot of pureblood kids there.
Yeah, for the Slytherins. Like the Slytherins get a feast. Nobody else gets a feast.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like a lot of what the Carrows did happened later. I feel like as things started getting worse and worse, I feel like they stepped up, but to terrible things, not like in a good way, obviously.
Exactly.
But I feel like October 31st is still pretty early in the year, and I feel like they still had to keep up some appearances for the
absolutely.
Yeah.
For the parents.
Families are still sending their kids, and like they need those kids, like they want to recruit them, so they don't want to like.
Yeah.
But it's mandatory this time. The parents have to send the kids that year.
That's true. That's true.
I would like to think.
That's so scary.
Yeah. It's freaky. I would like to think, going back to like Neville, Luna, and Ginny, that they managed to pull off, because actually at this point, those three are very, very adept at magic. Neville's really come into his own at this point, starting to be a leader. I would like to see something where like they bewitched the like jack-o'-lantern candles to all like turn in and like yell out Dumbledore's army in the middle of the feast.
Ooh, I love that.
Detention for everyone.
At least. That would be adorable.
Although that might require some coordination with Hagrid, and I don't know if he could have kept his mouth shut.
I'd like to think that the DA like had their own like little feast in the room of requirements. They like snuck some food and like just sat cross-legged on the floor and just like hung out.
And made plans or took a break from making plans.
In terms of our trio, as nice as your story was, Sarah, I do think the trio is in the tent at this time. Only because we know that I'm pretty sure we know. Sometimes I like can't separate what's fan fiction and what's canon at this point. But I think we know that Ron spends Christmas at Shell Cottage that year. Yeah. So he has left before that. Yeah. Harry and Hermione are alone on Christmas. And I just don't think that the locket would have driven Ron away that quickly for them to still be at Grimmauld Place October 31st.
Yeah, and I would have to think about how long have they been popping around in the woods? Help us out, remembered that.
They kind of lose track of time.
Yeah, they lose a lot.
Yeah, they really lose track.
Because they were like, it's Christmas when they when they go to the town and they hear the carols singing in the church. They're like, fuck, it's Christmas.
And by that time, Ron's been gone like a couple weeks, right?
Yeah. So they are at Grimmauld Place on September 1st.
Right. So let's say Ron leaves the tent like December 5th or whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's 20 days without Ron. I feel like that feels right for like the amount of like sadness they're feeling over losing their friend when they get to Godric's Hollow. Okay, so December 5th, backing it up, it would have taken at least a month for Ron to get that upset. So November 5th, I just
that makes sense.
I think they were already on the run by the 31st.
Yeah. For it to impact Ron that much, we're assuming that the locket passing around would have had to have been at least 4 to 6 weeks is what we're saying.
Yeah, I mean, you would think so because Ron only has it a third of the time anyway.
Yeah. So. I frankly will say, and Flo, I would hope you'd back me up on this, but maybe not. I'll just say that I think then J.K. Rowling did not give Ron enough respect because I think my headcanon Ron would have certainly taken even longer than that. I think it makes absolute sense that Ron's character arc went the way it did. I'm not saying that at all.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I think it is beautiful. I just think it could have taken Ron longer than it did to reach that breaking point. That doesn't mean that it makes it an interesting book, so I get that.
Yeah.
But when it comes to who Ron is as a character, 4 to 6 weeks even doesn't sit right with me at all. I prefer my Halloween story, and somehow they enter some time vortex where it is at least like I don't know, at least 12 weeks, right? I mean, that seems implausible to me. Flo.
I mean, I will say, so as your resident Ron expert, I will say, like,
yes,
in JK's defense, which I don't defend her in a lot of ways.
Yeah, it's like hard to say.
It is very hard to say those words right now. She did, foreshadow this for a long time. That like,
absolutely.
I mean, this was building on everything that Ron has ever felt from like the very first time we meet him on the Hogwarts Express, where he's just like, my mom doesn't have time for me. These sandwiches are dry because she doesn't have time, and like we don't have the money for this, and my brothers get new things, blah blah blah. Yeah. So I mean, it wasn't surprise. I was certainly very surprised that he left at first read, because you just don't expect the trio to break up, and you don't know what's going to happen. But looking back, it made perfect sense that he left, and like thank goodness he left, because they all needed that so badly. But yeah, I mean, I do like to think it would have taken longer than that, but I also understand why it wouldn't have. Like, it's close quarters. Like, I hate having just a sleepover with people. I'm like, get out of my face. So they're like living together in in a tent, and I mean, I can see tensions being
no
really
food.
high.
Yeah. Imagine them living in a tent during COVID with he who must not be named after them. No, thank you very much.
No.
And no food.
Thank you very much.
No food.
And like,
no worried about his family.
Freaking
I
Harry.
cannot.
That is the one time the food, just that aspect of it. That's the one time that I'm just like,
and we know
if I were
Ron
in that situation, my morals go out the window. Like, we're stealing the food. We're going to the grocery store and we're stealing the food.
Snickers has a marketing campaign for a reason. It rings true. You're not you when you are hangry.
Right.
And then like poor Harry has to live with these people who have like sexual tension up the wazoo, and then like Ron thinks that Harry and Hermione have sexual. It's just very confusing at times.
Yeah, they're teenagers. They're not.
Yeah, and they're 17. This. Like they're just like, can we all just fuck right now? Like what's happening?
All right, so going back now though to the flashback, because this is a very significant passage. It's one of, I think I've counted, it's one of like 4 times in the entire series where we actually get something
POV
not
shift.
from Harry's perspective. It is, I think, the only time that it is a straight POV shift. Any other time we're doing like chapters with other characters, it's a third person omniscient thing. So we are actually first person in Voldemort's head. And a few kind of significant things about it. He's going through the village. A little kid in a costume comes up to him, sees his face, and runs away.
Sweet mask.
Yeah, sweet mask. But I'm also that's one thing about this. I'm like, guys, it's 1981. Masks are not that good. Like, I know it's Halloween, but you can't tell me that he's not drawing attention to himself. Right. He's got like the long spider-like fingers. He doesn't have a nose.
Right.
All by himself, adult. What is happening?
I mean, the adults don't know what the kids are doing anyway.
Yeah,
the adults are like, go trick or treat. It's fine.
And then he goes up to the Potter's cottage, obviously, and he kills James Potter first and gives Lily that option to step aside. She doesn't, so he kills her and then famously fails to kill a baby. Right. So,
although
very sturdy baby.
I want to be very specific. He is not a baby. He is like 18 months old.
Yeah,
he's a toddler and like probably talking, and so it's like. I just have like so many issues with that. Like when I think about Charlotte as an 18-month-old, like she was not just like a lump. Like they like do stuff. Like they probably like dressed up Harry that year. What do you think Harry was dressed up as that year? A little
I would think he's a Quidditch player or a snitch.
I would think Quidditch related.
This actually, so this gets at one of my other questions about this. So Godric's Hollow, this is a hybrid village, right? You've got a strong wizarding presence, but it's also very muggled. Do wizard houses in those situations get trick-or-treaters on Halloween, and did James Potter fuck with them?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, a million times, yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
I looked it up, and like muggles and wizards both do trick-or-treating. So absolutely, unequivocally, 100%.
Yeah. James did everything in his power to fuck with the muggles.
They were probably super bored, too. Like, they really can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
That's true.
Oh, that's true. They're
then
already
maybe
on
they weren't allowed to. Then they probably just set out a candy bowl.
Maybe it would have the hand that would grab.
Yes.
As James watches from the window, like,
yeah,
the kids are going for it again, Lily, and poor Lily's like, why?
He manages to sneak a few acid pops in there. And some kids are just like, what's going on?
I like to think of Harry in a little Halloween costume.
Yeah, I like him little wings with a little gold little body belt. Just
all right. So if he's a snitch, because again, especially because they're on lockdown, like they're gonna go all in on everything. What were Lily and James dressed as to accompany that snitch?
They're totally dressed as Quidditch players, and they're having role playing things. Like they're just gonna run around and catch Harry and fling him around, and it'll be so cute.
But then he would be a clawful.
I can see Lily
that could be cute.
A referee.
Oh yeah,
so she gets all James around.
Yeah, and James is the seeker.
Yes,
I could see in that case. I could see Lily having just obviously James is the one who is always pranking or whatever. So they decide they're going to dress Harry as a snitch, and so Lily hides him somewhere in the house, and James has to find him.
I love it.
very cute.
Sirius came over that day to like take pictures with his godson.
Oh.
Yep.
I can't cry right now, Flo. Don't make me cry on the camera.
I mean, I just feel like he would have, right? Like, because he was like there pretty much immediately after it happened with his bike and everything, and so like,
you know, he was
feel like he would have been there a lot, or like maybe Lupin was there too. I don't. It would have been so sweet, like a little Halloween party beforehand, a little Halloween brunch.
Oh. Yeah. Well, I think that's where we should wrap it up, y'all. Thank you so much for being with us as we explored Harry Potter Halloween. Come back and join us for our next detailed dorky dive. And if you enjoy us in our podcast format, you can find us on iTunes, TuneIn, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Remember, we got a little website up there, bohemiangeekstudies.com, which is the name you'd use to find us everywhere except for on Twitter, which is Geek Studies. Tell your friends about us, subscribe, like us, and all that jazz. Thanks so much. Until next time, wands up and keep those pages turning. Cheers, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.